For 93 days, a mother gorilla hid her newborn in the corner of her enclosure. She wouldn't let anyone see him. Not the other gorillas. Not the silverback father. Not even the keepers who'd raised her for 11 years. Every time anyone approached, she turned her back and wrapped her body around the infant so completely that no one could see his face. The staff grew worried. The silverback grew aggressive. Then, one afternoon, the baby slipped from her arms in front of a crowd of visitors. What happened in the 3 seconds before she caught him revealed a secret she'd been protecting since birth. A secret that left everyone speechless. But before we continue, make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the bell so you never miss a story like this one. And tell us in the comments, where are you watching from, and what time is it there? We love hearing from our community around the world. Marcus Webb had worked with gorillas for 16 years. He had seen births, deaths, fights, illnesses, recoveries. He thought he understood these animals as well as any human being could. But when he walked into the sanctuary on that November morning and saw Amara sitting in the far corner of enclosure 7, back turned, body curved inward, infant completely hidden from view, something made him stop in the doorway, a feeling he couldn't name. Not alarm exactly, something quieter than that. Something that said, "Pay attention. This one is different." Amara had been at the sanctuary for 11 years. She had arrived as a young female, frightened and underweight, rescued from a facility that had closed down. Marcus had been with her from the very first day. He had watched her grow from a terrified juvenile into a calm, quiet adult. She was never the most dominant female in the troop. She stayed on the edges, kept to herself, avoided conflict. But Marcus had always noticed something about her that the others missed. Her eyes, they were always watching, always thinking. "She pays attention to everything," he used to tell new keepers. "Don't let the quiet fool you." When Amara became pregnant, the whole team celebrated. The father was Kofi, the troop's silverback, 420 pounds of muscle and instinct. A leader who had held his position for 6 years without being seriously challenged. Kofi was stable, as silverbacks go. But like all silverbacks, he operated on ancient rules: strength, fitness, genetic worth. In the wild, a silverback accepts a new infant into the troop within the first days of birth. The mother presents the baby. The silverback inspects it. If the infant is strong, if it grips, if it reacts, if it looks right, it is accepted. If something seems wrong, the silverback may reject the infant entirely. Amara had watched other mothers go through this ritual many times. Marcus had seen her watching, sitting at the edge of the group when other females presented their infants to Kofi, her eyes tracking every movement, every gesture. 3 years ago, she'd watched Kofi reject an infant. The baby had been weak, born premature. The mother had tried to hide it for 2 days. When Kofi finally saw the infant's trembling grip and unfocused gaze, he turned away. The mother understood. She stopped nursing. The infant died within a week. Amara had seen it all. She understood the rules better than anyone. She went into labor on that cold Tuesday morning in November. The birth was fast. The keepers monitored the cameras, relieved. Amara was moving normally, nursing, doing everything right. But within hours, something shifted. Instead of bringing the infant to the center of the enclosure the way new mothers usually do, almost showing the baby off, proud and visible, Amara moved to the furthest corner. She sat facing the concrete wall. She wrapped her body around the infant so completely that no one could see it at all. Marcus assumed it was normal first-time mother anxiety. "Give her a day," he said. "She'll relax." She didn't relax. Day 2 passed. Day 5. Day 12. The baby remained invisible, and Amara's behavior grew stranger by the hour. Marcus spent entire shifts reviewing the security footage. He watched her in slow motion, frame by frame, trying to understand. What he saw confused him completely. She wasn't just holding the infant close, she was communicating with it. He could see her thick fingers moving carefully, tapping the baby's left shoulder, then pausing, tapping its right leg, then pausing, pressing her hand flat against its back, then releasing. The baby, impossibly young, seemed to respond to each touch, shifting, turning, moving in the direction the taps indicated. "It looks like she's teaching it something," said Jenny, his assistant, watching over his shoulder one evening. Marcus shook his head slowly. But teaching a 3-week-old gorilla what exactly? The tension in the troop was building. The other females had begun to avoid Amara, casting nervous glances in her direction, grooming each other more than usual. Kofi paced the perimeter of the enclosure. He had not yet inspected the infant. Amara had refused to allow it, turning her back every time he approached, which was an act of defiance so dangerous it shocked even the most experienced keepers on the team. A female who growls at a silverback is a female gambling with her life. But Amara did it every time, without hesitation. A silverback who has not accepted a baby is a silverback waiting to make a decision. Every day that passed without the ritual inspection made the situation more volatile. Marcus documented everything and tried to stay calm, but at night, alone in his car before driving home, he sat in the dark and worried. The crisis came on a Saturday afternoon. The viewing deck was packed. Families, children, tour groups pressed against the glass. Amara had moved closer to the front of the enclosure, which was unusual. She was eating, the baby pressed against her chest. Then a child on the other side of the glass screamed with excitement and slammed both palms flat against the window. The bang echoed through the enclosure like a gunshot. Amara startled. The baby slipped. For one terrible second, the infant tumbled onto the grass, visible to the public for the first time in his life, a small dark shape blinking slowly in the afternoon light. Then it did something that made Marcus's blood run cold. It didn't look for its mother. It didn't turn toward her voice. It ran in a perfectly straight line, directly toward the electrified barrier at the edge of the enclosure. Amara dropped everything. She crossed the enclosure in 3 enormous strides and caught the infant by the ankle just inches from the hot wire. She yanked him back to her chest, bared her teeth at the glass, and ran to the back cave shaking. Marcus replayed the footage 6 times. He watched the infant tumble. He watched it stand. He watched it run, straight, without turning, without hesitating, directly toward the wire. "He didn't look for her," Marcus said quietly. "She was right next to him. He should have looked for her first. He ran straight past her." Jenny said nothing for a long moment. Then, very quietly, "Marcus, he didn't see her." The words landed like a stone dropped into still water. The zoo director called an emergency meeting. The decision was made to sedate Amara and perform a full medical examination on the infant. It was the hardest call Marcus had ever been part of. 11 years of trust, 11 years of patience and careful, quiet relationship building. And now he was going to betray it. But the baby had nearly run into the electric barrier. They had no choice. They put the sedative in her favorite food, a special fruit mix she had loved since she was young. She ate it without hesitation, the way she always did when Marcus brought it. He watched her on the monitor and felt sick. For a moment, nothing happened. Then her movements slowed. She looked down at the food bowl, then up at the camera, directly at the camera, as if she knew Marcus was watching. Her eyes met his through the screen, and in that moment, Marcus saw it. Recognition. Understanding. Betrayal. She knew he'd done this to her. She seemed to sense that something was wrong. With the last of her strength, she tried to lift the infant onto her back, trying to protect him even as her body was shutting down. Her arms gave out. She slumped against the wall. Her eyes stayed open, wide and frightened. Her hands were still reaching for him when the keepers came through the door. The infant screamed when they took him. A high, piercing shriek that echoed off the concrete walls and followed Marcus all the way down the corridor to the veterinary clinic. Dr. Elena Reyes, the chief veterinarian, worked quickly and carefully. Heart rate, normal. Weight, slightly low but healthy. Limb movement, normal. Grip strength, normal. "So, what is it?" Marcus asked, pacing the room. "Why has she been hiding him for 3 months?" Dr. Reyes picked up her ophthalmoscope. "Hold his head still." She shone the light into the infant's right eye. The pupil didn't react. She moved to the left eye, same result. She waved her hand in front of his face. He didn't flinch, only turned slightly at the movement of air against his skin. Dr. Reyes set the instrument down. The room went completely silent. The only sound was the soft beep of the heart monitor. "He's blind," she said. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "Complete congenital blindness. He has been since the moment he was born. He cannot see anything at all." Nobody spoke, nobody moved. The word sat in the middle of the room, and nobody wanted to touch it. Marcus sat down. He felt the full weight of 93 days land on him all at once. "But how has he been navigating?" he asked. "I've seen him reach for her. I've seen him climb onto her back." Dr. Reyes looked at him steadily. "Think about what you told me you saw on those tapes, Marcus. The tapping, the shoulder, the leg, the hand pressed flat against the back." Marcus closed his eyes. Every tap was a direction. Left to shoulder, turn left, right leg, climb up, hand on back, stop, be still, stay close to me. She had built him a language, a private language made entirely of touch, invented alone in the dark corner of an enclosure by a first-time mother who had never read a book and had never been taught anything about how to raise a blind child. She had realized within days of his birth that her son was living in complete darkness, and instead of giving up, instead of allowing Kofi to discover his condition and make the decision that instinct would demand, she had become his eyes. She had memorized every inch of the enclosure. She had mapped every drop, every edge, every danger. She had hidden his empty gaze from the silverback for 93 days, knowing that a father operating on pure instinct would look into those unfocused eyes and see only weakness. She had carried her son through a world he could not see, built him a system to survive in it, and told no one. Not because she was ashamed, because she was protecting him the only way she knew how. The medical team debated. Standard protocol: remove the blind infant and raise him by hand. But Marcus argued that Amara's system had kept him alive for 3 months in a complex social troupe. They decided to attempt surgery. The blindness was caused by congenital cataracts. Surgery could restore partial vision. 4 hours later, the operation was complete. When they reunited Amara with her son, she saw the bandages over his eyes. For a long moment, she just stared at them. Then she looked at Marcus, the man who had sedated her, the man who had taken her baby. She didn't bare her teeth, didn't turn away. She brought the bandages to her nose, sniffed them carefully. Then, very slowly, she touched her own forehead, then touched the infant's bandaged eyes. "She's asking if we fixed him," Dr. Reyes whispered. Marcus nodded. He didn't trust his voice. Amara brought the infant to her chest and began tapping. She had not forgotten a single signal. 2 days later, Dr. Reyes removed the bandages. The surgery had partially worked. The infant would never have perfect vision. But when the doctor moved a light near his face, he blinked, turned his head, reached out and touched Amara's nose. His eyes followed her movement. It was the first time he had ever seen her face. The final test was Kofi. 1 week later, they released Amara and the infant back into the main enclosure. Kofi walked over slowly, He stopped in front of Amara, grunted. Amara stood straight, held the infant out. Kofi leaned down, sniffed the infant's head, then reached out one finger and touched his ear, gently. He turned and walked away. The baby was accepted into the troop. They named him Mosi. He grew up clumsy but loved, always close to his mother. Years later, Amara's own vision began to fade with age. One afternoon, she couldn't find a piece of fruit she had dropped. Mosi reached under the log. He picked it up. He tapped her shoulder twice, slowly, the way she had always tapped his. She turned. He placed the fruit in her hand. The language she had given him in darkness, he was giving back to her in light. Did this story touch your heart? If it did, write yes in the comments below. A mother who invented a language in the dark to save her blind son. Do you believe a mother's love can overcome anything? Write your answer. Subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Thank you for being here. See you in the next story.